probably find New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, etc. But I didn't see any figures in my article that I'm looking at it right now. And wait a minute, mine says 1,500.
Oh, 1,500. Okay.
Guatemalans.
Yeah, but again, I didn't pay a lot of close attention to the article, so my numbers may be off. But I did see that today, and one friend made a comment saying that if the husband come home and the wife asks him, how come you brought this disease, and he said he didn't know, he'd be telling the truth.
Yeah,
because
they were actually they were giving them through shots.
Okay.
They were shooting a lot of them in with so-called vaccines, and were giving it in shots. Some of the men were getting it from prostitutes, but some of them were actually being given injections.
Okay.
So, it's a major story that will be covered. Probably today will be the last day in the mass media, the establishment media, and then it'll be dumped to the black hole or the memory hole of 1984, and you'll never hear about it again. Let me real quick, go over one more very, very interesting article. Have you heard about the mobile X-ray scanners? Okay. What the New World Order gang is doing is they're building mobile scanners. They're in vans. They're called Z backscatter vans. And they're being built by Billerica, Massachusetts, the American Science and Engineering Company. And they've sold 500 of them already in America and around the world. And what they're doing is the governments are taking these things and they're just driving them around and randomly having cars go through checkpoints, and they X-ray the cars to see if there's any guns, weapons in the cars. And they're also using them on pedestrians. They park the van in a very high-traffic pedestrian area, and they just shoot the people with X-rays as they go walk by. And these backscatter X-ray machines are putting out more than 10 times what a chest X-ray is. And so people, over a course of time, if these vans become ubiquitous, they're found all over the country and they're used in major cities, some people will be getting dozens of these X-rays and they're going to die. It's going to kill them.
And in regards to killing, we saw, unfortunately, a lot of that on 9/11 and after 9/11, but even before 9/11, there's been a lot of killing too. And unfortunately, the vast majority of the mainstream media outlets, so-called talk radio, which is really just establishment radio. If you ever hear people like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, or all the front people on CNN or MSNBC, or even the BBC and other major media mainstream outlets, have been basically feeding us lie over lie over lie about 9/11. But fortunately, thanks to the efforts of Brother Nashid and Anthony J. Hilder, as well as Dylan Avery of Loose Change, and Victor Thorne and Michael Collins Piper, Mark Glenn, and so forth, and many other writers and activists, we are now getting the truth about 9/11, that 9/11 was indeed an inside job. The evidence is overwhelming. And in response to that, there's one particular article which proves that even the establishment themselves realize that many people out there are now realizing 9/11 was indeed an inside job. That's why they published an article by Paul Friedman. And Brother Nashid, could you expand on that more for our listeners?
Yeah, the article by Friedman, and we plan to do a press release about this, but what this article is saying in a nutshell, it is trying to tie Muslims into being at the World Trade Center to show that Muslims had access and had availability to plant bombs in the building. Again, I'm not going to go a lot into it at this point because there's a press release that's going to come out tomorrow, and then after the press release we're going to probably go more into it. But the whole point behind this article is that the facts about the thermite and bombs in the building, the great work done by Professor Stephen Jones, and then when you have professionals like architects, especially the work done by Richard Gage and others, when intelligent people who are thinkers look at the events of 9/11 and look at how the building falls and look at forensic evidence, and then viewing that and then listening to the mainstream media fiction in terms of how they describe the causes of the building. For instance, they say that the 9/11 Commission report says that the planes, the heat generated by the plane, the fires from the fuel, the jet fuel, caused the building to fall. And first of all, jet fuel can't reach the temperature needed to melt steel. Steel melts at a temperature of 2,800 degrees, and jet fuel was melted 1,800 degrees, 1,000 degrees less. And when you look at the type of smoke given off by the jet fuel, they were oxygen-starved fires. By being oxygen-starved meant that the temperature was even much less than the 1,800. So you look at 500 degrees. But again, just the explanation they gave just didn't make sense. And one thing the people who planned 9/11, they didn't bank on, they didn't consider that intelligent scientists, intelligent professionals like architects, engineers, would look at this event and knowing how the laws of nature, the laws of physics, the laws of engineering and all of the various sciences work, know that the explanation that they got from mainstream media just wouldn't make sense. So in a nutshell, I think our enemies, the one who planned 9/11, are beginning to see that their story is not adding up, and more people are doubting the official fiction about 9/11, and they know at some point they will have to face the fact that they cannot deny that bombs were planted in the building, and that bombs in conjunction with thermite was what was needed to cut the steel to bring the building down in a kind of implosion method, controlled demolition method, as we see from the videos showing how the buildings came down. So they know they are going to have to face that fact. So the article from Mr. Freeman is to say, okay, if we come at some point where we can't deny these facts, then we can show that Muslims had access and availability to the building, so they could have planted the bomb. So they are preparing that seed. But again, I'm just going to leave it at this point and just only mention that the idea of this whole brouhaha that we see that happened over the mosque at Ground Zero, and this whole idea of Islamophobia, where the idea initially where Bush came out with his speech in 2001 saying that we are not against Islam, we are against these 19 Arabs, we are against Al-Qaeda, it seems like that has made a transformation where now they are trying to pin the blame on any Muslim, to say that any Muslim could be involved with the terrorist act of 9/11. So, like we know how we have the Sayanim for the Jews, for the Israeli Mossad, who assist them in doing their devious actions in different countries, they're trying to say that Muslims can do the same thing. So that, again, when the evidence is so compelling that they can't deny it, they would already have prepared the mentality of Americans to accept the idea that any Muslim could be a supporter to terrorist actions and could possibly be aiding Al-Qaeda in one way or the other. But again, like I said, there's much more to say about this, but we want to make that press release regarding this attempt first before I go more into it.
Ron?
Yeah, Sayeed, Nashid has a very good argument there. If a person knows anything about structural engineering on skyscrapers, they automatically will understand that the way the buildings fell, it could not have been caused by fire. Because as he said, the hottest those fires could have possibly gotten was 1,800 degrees, and still that is used in high-rise.
Hello?
Hello. It seemed like we lost Ron there for a minute. I thought there was something wrong with me.
Ron, are you there? Ron?
I guess he can join us. We can continue probably and see if he can. Right. Is there a way that you can call him or
yeah, once again.
Yeah, I got
Ron,
cut
are you
off
there?
somehow.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm here
okay,
now.
I got you. Okay.
What happened is I guess they're listening to the show and they didn't like what I was saying, so they just knocked me off. But here's something that is 100% proof. This is the only thing you have to explain to a person who believes the official 9/11 story. Is explain to him that the Twin Towers were high-rise skyscrapers that were built in a different manner than most skyscrapers. They used 47 steel columns running from the bedrock to the top of the tower. Now, these columns are not skinny little things that you can put your fingers around. These are columns that are so big that two full-grown men wrapping their arms around them could not touch each other's hands. These are massive support columns. Anytime you go into a parking structure, you'll see these type of columns.
Mm-hmm.
These are made out of steel and concrete. Now, for those columns to fall straight down, as the way the Twin Towers fell, and Tower number 7, the 47-story building nearby, the only way that those towers could fall straight down is that on every floor, those columns would have to be cut with explosives, incredibly powerful explosives. And as we watched them, they fell from the top and they worked their way down floor by floor to what they call the pancake action. For that to happen, every single floor, all 47 steel columns would have to be cut at the exact split second. We're talking 1,000th of a second.
Very
all
precise.
Of them at the same time. And to do that for, while the one tower was struck at the 80th floor and the other at the 90th or thereabouts, 80 floors and 90 floors had to be cut split second after split second for them to fall. And that does not happen by fire. It is physically impossible. And so they had to be cut with explosives planted on the support columns. That's the only way, and that's why that article by that Paul Friedman of the New York